What's going on YouTube? Cloverbuzz here, back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're going to be releasing 5 more rental teams that you can use to play on ladder, compete in a tournament for the Regulation D format. I know this is a few days late, but we've been busy, doing some other non-Pokemon related things. But now we found the time to make our rental teams, and here we go. So hopefully you'll find these rentals useful. As always, if you give them a go, let me know how you do. If you get good tournament results like you did with the other 5 in July, all the more merrier. It helps me go a long way if I get to know, how you do with your team. All right, but without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at our first team. All right, so this is rental number 1. This is our standard 6 with Dragonite, Chien-Pao, and friends. So basically, the idea with this version of standard 6 versus our July version is that there is no Tornadus, and instead we inputted the Rillaboom. And the whole idea with that change is that the Rillaboom gives Fake Out to the team, gives us that Fire, Water, Grass cord that we were missing in the previous July version, and at the same time, it gives you a little bit better of a Trick Room matchup just because you have Fake Out, and now you also get Fake Out Surging Strikes as a utility that you can capitalize off of, right? But other than that, it's just a standard well-balanced team with, Dragon Fairy, Steel, Fire, Water, Grass, and then you have Chien-Pao to make everything hit relatively harder. Speaking of Chien-Pao, you'll notice that it has Icicle Crash as opposed to Ice Spinner. That's only because we don't want to blow up our own terrain because we have our own Rillaboom on this team. So this way, instead of using Icicle Spinner, Ice Spinner to remove like an Indeedee sector terrain, we have the ability to just use Rillaboom and remove the terrain like that, and then Fake Out next turn to stall out a Trick Room turn. And then you can just use Icicle Crash. It does a little bit more damage. It has a chance to miss. All right, but on this channel we have the Clover symbol, and we are just simply not going to miss, right? Heatran is still Terra Bug. That's pretty good into the mirror matchup, because most Heatrans are Terra Grass. So Terra Blast, Terra Bug gives you a little bit of an out in that sense to be able to hit them relatively well. And then of course our Flutter Mane is still Substitute Flutter Mane. I like Sub Flutter Mane quite a bit. I also like Substitute Heatran for that matter. But other than that, it's a pretty standard team. Dragonite has 4 coverage moves, of course, along with Iron Head, being the notable one. I always feel like these kinds of teams, you always want like one Steel move just to have something to hit a Flutter Mane with. And it comes out relatively clutch in certain situations. All right, so let's take a look at the EV spreads just to show you how we did our EV spreads for this team. All right, so here's the EV spreads for our first team, and basically you'll notice that right away our Chien-Pao is Adamant Nature, and that's just to respond to the change that Flutter Manes have been undergoing, throughout the format of Regulation D, simply because the Flutter Manes are now slower, right? And for the most part, they've always been slower, and even since dating back to Regulation C. But now they're like so slow to the point where like you can go Adamant Chien-Pao and still outspeed them, right? Because the whole reason that Flutter Manes are going slower is they're taking those EVs and investing it into their physical bulk because they need to be able to survive a Sucker Punch / Ice Spinner from a Chien-Pao, right? So then from that matter, in response to that, we're going to say, okay, we're going to go Adamant Nature anyway. We have a Sash, so it doesn't really matter so much. And we're still going to outspeed the Flutter Mane. But now we're going to ruin those damage calcs and have a little bit more damage added to our repertoire, right? But other than that, Dragonite still is the same from our July rental. And the Flutter Mane over here, so you'll see this Flutter Mane spread throughout our rentals. I've adjusted it this time versus our July, the rental, Flutter Mane, and I made it a little bit more bulkier, right? In response to Adamant Chien-Pao, right? So we can survive Sucker Punch and Ice Spinner, from an Adamant Chien-Pao. And then from there, we still have enough special attack where we're hitting the first EV benchmark to be able to still get a special attack boost versus our, our speed. We still outnumber it by 1 point. Then from there, Heatran is still a relatively standard spread with second EV bump there in the Modest Nature, 204 HP for the leftovers / Rillaboom recovery. So it's optimized for that. And then, you just have your speed about 115, still able to outspeed most Rillabooms and some Heatrans for that matter. But, 115 speed tier is still relatively okay. And then the Urshifu, the one big difference here versus July is that it has a Choice Scarf because, there's no Tornadus here. So we need a way to still outspeed things. So, might as well just go for Choice Scarf here. And then this will hit to 10, which will let you outspeed the Flutter Mane / Chien-Pao. I'm sorry, Flutter Manes and the Iron Bundles for that matter. And then from here, Rillaboom is still the same Rillaboom. The only thing is I took 2 points off the Spadef and then just added more into the speed just to have a little bit more of a faster Fake Out option. But the 132 HP will optimize for the grassy terrain. You'll hit that 192 mark. And then, you know, the 52 defense also allows you to survive the Dragonite E-Speed boosted from Chien-Pao. And then the rest just gets dumped into Spadef while you have 196 into the regular attack stat. All right, that's the first rental, and let's keep on moving. All right, with rental team number 2 comes with it a very solid and standard Cresselia Ursaluna team, but there is one Pokemon that might raise an eyebrow there, and that is Gyarados. And we'll talk about that as we discuss the team, of course, but it's a very standard 5 core, you know, with Cresselia, Ursaluna, Iron Hands, and Fluttermane, right? And then you add the Heatran here for a little bit more, you know, patching up certain matchups, you know, like an opposing Rillaboom, which threatens an Ursaluna for that matter. But again, you know, the whole idea here is you get up Trick Room with the Cresselia, which allows the Ursaluna to sweep in the end game, right? Or even in the beginning of the game, you can help set up the said Trick Room with Iron Hands with Fake Out Pressure, and then from there, again, you can just switch it out and go into the Ursaluna. So now you have 2 physical Trick Room sweepers on this team, and then you add Fluttermane and Heatran. Now you got more special attack damage, you know, and Fluttermane this time around has 2 attacks as opposed to having a substitute here. So Moonblast and Dazzling Gleam for spread damage. The Heatran, this Heatran is Terra Grass, okay? And then from here, the Gyarados adds an Intimidator on the team, which is something that was missing on some Ursaluna teams. And I wanted to bring that back. We get another speed control move in Thunder Wave. We get Taunt, which is great into, like, you know, Goodras and Amoonguses and whatever other, you know, teams that want to be able to set up. And then at the same time, you also get another flying type that Ursaluna can click Earthquake next to, right? And I always say, like, my magic number is 2. If you can have 2 Pokemon that you can Earthquake next to, then go for Earthquake. If it's only 1, then you just need like a single target move, like, you know, Stomping Tantrum or Headlong Rush. But that's really what I was going for. I was going for synergy here. And now you also get another Pokemon that can also help Cresselia be able to absorb hits because, you know, you get Intimidate with Gyarados, right? So now what you can also do at the same time is with your Thunder Wave, you know, you can get speed control that way, get some para hacks, and then stuff like Fluttermane and Heatran can outspeed and win you the game, right? But the whole idea is just, you know, a balanced approach to try and getting up Trick Room, and then, you know, the Ursaluna / Iron Hand should be able to deal most of the damage, and then you get a little bit of a mid to fast mode, you know, with Heatran, Fluttermane, and Gyarados, you know, spamming Thunder Waves. But just Gyarados just adds support to the entire team in general. It's a bulky pivot, especially with that Rocky Helmet item. You're just able to take a lot of hits. You wall the Urshifu, which is something that Ursaluna can struggle with. And that's really why I added Gyarados into this, something like this, right? Because, you know, Urshifu is a big problem sometimes, and it can give Heatran a problem as well. But now you add Gyarados, and now some of that matchup is patched up quite a bit, right? And then, again, the Heatran can also help against the Rillaboom matchup, which can give Fluttermane and Ursaluna some problems as well, right? So that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the EVs and see how we constructed the squad in terms of spreads. Okay, so basically you can see also the Fluttermane is pretty much the same EVs as the previous ones, and they're all going to be the same in terms of our Fluttermane EVs. I just like staying consistent with its spread, so this way, you know, in my mind intrinsically I know what it's going to do. But like I said, it was pretty much optimized for sub. Even though this one doesn't have sub, it's still okay because you're still calc to survive the Adamant Chien-Pao attacks, right? Let's go to Cresselia up there. So basically I went Bold Nature this time just to be able to better take the Chien-Pao Dragonite combination of E-Speed and Ice Spinner. That was the main idea there, and then just dump the rest into Special Defense, which is also pretty good against Fluttermane Shadow Ball, you know, especially when there is a Chi-Yu on the field. That's also what I was aiming for. Ally Switch is quite clutch, I would say. So, you know, just depending on how you want to use it, you can play the mind games with your opponent. You can click it, you can not click it. Your opponent has to call it. It's a very frustrating move, and sometimes you can just win the game even if you don't click it, right? Just because of the threat of having it and making an incorrect call is the idea behind it, right? The Ursaluna, the HP 140 gets it to 223. That's optimized for the Flame Orb, you know, damage chip. Then the Adamant Nature 156 is the second benchmark there in the attack stat. And then from there, I just added 100 defense and 108 Spadef. The 100 defense is actually not too bad against the Urshifu Surging Strikes damage. It gives you a little bit of a favorable roll, right? But it all depends on your luck a little bit, right? And then the rest, of course, is just dumped there into Spadef. But also at the end of the day, actually, no, I remember now also with the Ursaluna, it's also calc to basically take a close combat and lift the tail to tail. Adamant 156 was the goal. Surging Strikes is a bit of a roll, so don't count on it. You have the Terra, but that's also why you have Ghost Terra, which will help you in that matchup in those regards. Then from here, the Iron Hand's very standard set, 76 HP. Again, optimized for the for sand chip damage, and despite the fact that there's no Tyranitar running around. Adamant 156, just like Ursaluna, it's a second bump there, max Spadef, and then the rest just gets dumped into defense and remaining into speed EVs. It's one of the common EV spreads that you can find on Pikalytics. It's the one I have always been using. I've never had a trouble with it, so yeah. Gyarados here, Impus Nature, you're hitting the first benchmark there in 84 defense, max HP, of course, to basically get the best bang for your buck there in terms of your defense. The leftovers just went into Spadef. 52 speed EVs, so this way after Thunder Wave you can outspeed Dragapult, and that's really all there is you need to say about the Gyarados there. Heatran, again 156, second benchmark in Modest Nature, 204 HP for leftovers optimization. And then from there, I just split up the bulk in terms of 36 defense and 36 Spadef. That's really all there was left over. And that's pretty much, it's a different Heatran than the other one. So you can see it's much slower because, this is a Trick Room Heatran, I would say, right? So yeah, now let's just go ahead and move on to rental number 3. All right, so this is rental number 3, and this is one of my favorites as well, just because it has a Salamence on it. And if you've been following the channel since Sword and Shield, you guys would know that Salamence is one of my favorites. And anytime I get a chance to use it, I always do, right? Especially in Regulation A, B, and C. I've always found the way to use Salamence, and here it is again in Regulation D, except now it also has a pretty interesting niche, right? Dragon Flying with a Rocky Helmet, right? So now you have a good matchup into Urshifu because you resist the water moves and you resist the fighting moves as well, right? And then at the same time, you can do well into Rillaboom, you can do well into Amoonguss, and then you can break Sash on the Chien-Pao. It's actually a guarantee 2-hit KO with the dual Wing Beat with the spread that we got. Assuming that we get to be able to use it, we do have to tear in front of it, of course. Otherwise, 4 times weakness to ice just isn't that great. Something like Landorus could easily fit here, right? But Landorus doesn't give you the same resistance that Salamence gives you, right? Which is why I also wanted to use it here. And you also get access to Tailwind, right? So now you have a fast mode. You're able to make Flutter Mane, Heatran, Urshifu, and Rillaboom. You're able to make all these options faster, right? And then at the same time, Roost, you get longevity, right? You get passive recovery, to be able to have that in certain one-on-one scenarios. You will win that endgame because you have a recovery move. Almost like the Zapdos idea with Tailwind and Roost. So just think of like Landorus and Zapdos and as one Pokemon, and you get Salamence, right? That's the way I kind of like view it. All right, but anyway, the rest of the team is relatively standard, with your Flutter Mane, Urshifu, Heatran, Rillaboom, right? So Flutter Mane plus Fire, Water, Grass, Core. And then now you have another cool new Pokemon that has been on the rise as of late and all the rage, and that is Farigiraf. So of course with Farigiraf, you're able to deny opposing priority moves, right? So opposing, extreme speeds and then sucker punches and aqua jets, all of these go out the window because Farigiraf is here. And then at the same time, you also get Trick Room, right? So now you can always play in the slow mode if you have to, or you can imprison it if they want to use, Trick Room against your own Tailwind. So you can always use that as an arsenal. But Farigiraf is just a really cool Pokemon. Psychic and Dazzling Gleam, of course, for your 2 stab moves. Great into dark types, and also the Psychic is pretty good into something like Amoonguss for that matter, right? So anyway, Dragon, Fairy, Steel, Fire, Water, Grass, Core plus Farigiraf. So very well-balanced team. You got options. You got speed control here with Trick Room and Tailwind. And then you also get Substitute on the Heatran if you ever want to use that to also stall out potential Trick Room turns, all right? So let's go into the EV spreads and see how we constructed this particular team. Okay, so here's our EV spreads for our Salamence squad. So basically with Adamant, 116, again, that's to the second benchmark in the attack stat. So this way the Salamence can actually do decent damage. 252 along with 60 defense, HP and defense. That's meant to survive a Chien-Pao boosted Dragonite Terra normal E-speed. Okay, so again, just calc to live at 1 HP at max. And then from there, I just dumped the rest into Spadef, right? 36 Spadef was our leftovers. And then, of course, 44 speed, which is the one I did, the first thing I did, was again, put it to that 126 benchmark in terms of speed. Very important VGC number because in this case, after a +1, you can outspeed Modest Flutter Manes, right? Then over here, the Flutter Mane, like I said, it's the same exact spread as the other Flutter Manes. I just kept it relatively consistent and standard. The Heatran is also the same as our other Heatran that we used. with our substitute. Again, optimized for leftovers / Rillaboom recovery, hitting the second benchmark in special attack, and then that 140 investment gets it to 140 speed here, right? So that's really what I wanted the Heatran to do. Then from the Urshifu's point of view, again, the same set with just a Mystic Water with Protect this time around. The important thing also is with the Farigiraf, right? So with Farigiraf, again, you're hitting the first bump in special attack with 76 investment, then 228, 60 defense will optimize against a Terra Water Surging Strikes Urshifu, right? Your calc to live that. And then from there, I just had Spadef left over, so let's just dump the rest into special defense, and of course, just 1 point in speed. And of course, the Rillaboom is exactly the same as the other Rillabooms. By the way, 132 HP. Again, that's meant to optimize for grassy terrain recovery, and 52 defense. Along with that investment, survives Dragonite boosted E-speed. And then you just dump the rest into Spadef, right? And the 196 is the third benchmark in the attack set. All right, so that's our Salamence squad. So let's move on to the next one. By the way, I wanted to correct that error. I said the Heatran was meant to hit that 140 benchmark and outspeed. No, it's not. It's actually just 115, just a very standard set. Just meant to outspeed some Rillabooms and some Heatrans that are relatively slow. That's pretty much all I wanted to do with that Heatran. All right, now let's go into our next rental. All right, so this is rental number 4. This one's a fun one just because it has, Abomasnow and the Articuno combination, right? And this is a tier 3 sub request to the channel from a viewer, so they wanted to build around Articuno, and this is what we did. This is our take on it. This is why we call it Polar Bells instead of... All right, so yeah, that's the name of the team. So we went with a Tornadus Landers idea behind the Abomasnow Articuno, right? Because I figured every time I see some of these Articuno Abomasnow teams, right, sometimes they're a little bit lacking in the speed control. So I decided to go with Tornadus with Tailwind here, right? And then what that does at the same time is not only does it give you speed control, but now it also gets access to Snowscape this generation, which means you're able to go for manual snow just in case some teams want to take it away with you with swapping in their sun and swapping in their rain. Now you have Snowscape, and then from there you don't necessarily have to bring the Abomasnow sometimes, right? Now you can just go with Articuno Tornadus, click Snowscape, click Blizzard, and then there it is. And the whole idea with Articuno is, of course, yes, you're spamming Blizzard in the snow, but with Bright Powder and Snow Cloak, it makes it sometimes quite hard to hit the Articuno. And the times you do hit it, it'll just recover with Roost, the same way that, Zapdos likes to recover, right? Or even our Salamence. And then Terra Blast, Terra Water just gives it a good matchup against some of the fire types that want to hit the Articuno. And then at the same time, you're able to resist some of the steel damage that comes into Articuno, right? And then now you're also weak to you are weak to electric moves, but then this is also why we added Landers to the team. And then Landers can now have 2 targets that it can Earthquake next to, that being the Tornadus and that being the Articuno. So, pretty good synergy all around. And Landers gives the team Intimidate, right? So now you can have Screens and Intimidate, so now all of this physical damage that's coming out is just not going to be doing all that much damage. And then at the same time, the Landers has an Assault Vest, right? So you can imagine Screens with Intimidate and Assault Vest. The Landers actually gets relatively hard to remove, and with the longevity stuff, you're just kind of chilling there. And then Fluttermane has Substitute to be able to stall out Trick Room teams, and then Urshifu is just a standard Urshifu set. But Tornadus also has Taunt, so that's also good in terms of denying. But all around, you got damage mitigation, you got speed control, you have some pivot options here with U-turn, of course, and then you have longevity with Roost. So all around, you got some good combinations here. It's a fun team. Once we got it like past, I would say like 1500, we're like, okay, that's it. This is good enough for a rental. Let's make it, and here it is. So hopefully you guys enjoyed and use it. But let's just go ahead and show you the EV strategy just so you understand how we built it. All right, so here is the Pokepaste, and again, the Abomasnow wants every bit of special attack damage that it can get, just because, even with a max stat, it just doesn't do all that much damage, right? It'll do like pretty good damage, because it's max 252, but still at the same time, it's just a little bit lackluster. This is why we're awaiting the return of Alolan Ninetales. But anyway, until then, we're stuck with this thing, and here it is. 36 speed puts it to 85, which means under Tailwind you're at 170. So now you can outspeed base 100s like a Chi-Yu, for example, right? And then the Ice Shard is a pretty good priority move. I forgot to mention that when we were talking about the rental. Terra Ghost there, so this way if it does get extreme speeded or priority moved against, you have the idea to just go for Terra Ghost, and then from there, those extreme speeds are just not going to be able to hit you. Same thing with the close combat, like from an incoming Urshifu, right? Articuno. So again, max HP, of course, and then special attack stat was 116 for the bump. I put it to 124, just because, you know, it was just like leftover at the end. But again, with 28 defense, 4 speed depth, 100 speed, 126 speed stat, you know, that allows it to outspeed, you know, modest Fluttermanes with a +1 boost. And again, you might not be able to have a +1 boost just because you only have Tailwind, but it's still a pretty good VGC number to be able to hit. Urshifu, like I said, is the same Urshifu spread. Same with the Fluttermane here. The only difference now with the Fluttermane is that it is Terra Water. There's actually 4 Terra options here that are Water. I just noticed that. It's more of a defensive Terra in this case. This is what the viewer wanted. You can also just go with our standard Terra Fairy for more damage, but Terra Water, you're able to resist steel damage, and then at the same time you take away your Fairy weakness and your Ghost weakness, right? Yeah, Water is just a very, very good defensive typing. Landorus has that to be able to resist Urshifu Surging Strikes, as does the Fluttermane, of course. And then from here, Adamant 116 attack stat is just a very, very good damaging Landorus. Max HP, of course. And then from there, I just put the rest into the bulk just to even it out a little bit. The Tornadus, Bolt Tornadus. Okay, so Bolt Tornadus, this will allow you to live the Dragonite E-Speed, boosted by Chien-Pao, without having to burn your Terra Ghost. Okay, I just want to stress that. So once you live that, then your opponent should be able to figure out that you are bold. But at the very least, you have the option to live it once without having to burn your Terra at that particular turn. All right, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, give this one a go. And now we'll proceed to our last rental of the night. All right, this is rental number 5. This is our last rental of the night, and I had to have this one made by one of our viewers because I ran out of slots. So shout outs to Psycho VGC for making this for me. You might say, how did you run out of slots when you only had 4? That's because I kept the Moltres team active. Because again, that was my best team from July, so I wanted to keep using that slightly off on the side. So I needed something. I needed an open slot, so they were willing to help me out. So yeah, thanks again for making the rental for me, Psycho. So but anyway, this is a Baxcalibur team, so this is something that I've been wanting to use as well. Another dragon, just like Salamence. And the idea with this Baxcalibur team is very, very standard. Actually, it just revolves around using balanced stuff with Rillaboom, Heatran, and Urshifu. Plus a Fluttermane, and now you have Zapdos with Tailwind and Roost. Almost like our Salamence team in that sense, right? But now there's no Farigiraf here, but in the essence, you have a Baxcalibur as opposed to a Salamence here. So you get priority Ice Shard, you get Icicle Spear damage, you know, loaded dice set, and then Glaive Rush just does so much damage. The Tailwind helps the Baxcalibur do more in terms of outspeeding. I wouldn't say more damage, right? And then from here, everything else is pretty much standard. You've seen this for, I believe, on 3 teams already, I would say. So you got Fluttermane, you got Heatran, you got Urshifu. You know, very standard, you know, Fairy plus Fire, Water, Grass, Core. There's nothing else that needs to be said here. It's just a Baxcalibur balanced team, you know, with Zapdos providing Tailwind support for certain matchups, right? Because, you know, Baxcalibur, a little bit weak to Urshifu sometimes, which is also why we have the Zapdos on teams like this. So, yeah. Okay, so it's pretty much the same EV threads that we've had with the Flutter, Ursh, Rilla, and Heatran, so I won't really say too much there. The Zapdos is the same one as July. It's just meant to survive the Chien-Pao Ice Spinner damage. All right, so if you have to Terra Steel to be able to survive it because you've taken some chip, then go for it. But if you're at full health, you can take one Chien-Pao Ice Spinner. And then your Zapdos, again, is just meant to outspeed and speed creep, you know, with 127 speed, outspeeding the 125, 126ers. So I just put that there for speed creeping purposes. The Baxcalibur here, 208, you know, from the 140 HP investment, that's just meant to optimize for the Rillaboom Grassy Terrain recovery. You max out the attack to get the best bang for your buck, and then 121, of course, will that 120 is for the Genie mark, right? So I just went for 121 for, you know, speed creeping, that idea. All right, but that's pretty much it. Those are all of our EV spreads. And those are all 5 rental teams. So if you try any of them, let me know how you do. And if you are interested in building a team of your own and you need help, we have coaching on the channel. We have team building. That's a tier 3 sub to the channel. Check the video description below. Check the comment section. There is a link to join the channel. And then once you've been able to sign up, then you can message me on Discord and we can plan a one-on-one call and then build you that team that you need to be able to be successful in ranked ladder or tournament or whatever. July, all 5 of our rentals, we were able to either win a tournament or top cut with those teams. Well, not me specifically, but like users who have used our teams, our viewers, So we've been very successful in constructing our squads, and hopefully we can keep that up here in August, of course. World Championships are coming, right? People will be busy in Japan without a doubt, but there's still action going on in the Pokemon world elsewhere. There's still going to be tournaments happening. So if this is something that you need to be preparing for, then we can help you get you what you need. All right. Tier 3 sub to the channel. Video description below, comment section. Every video has a join now button, so check it out. And then from there, you know, we'll discuss one-on-one once you do sign up. We'll be back with another video in the next one, guys. Peace out and have a good one.